Hello and welcome to Cleveland Classic Cinema. Our offering this time around is 1959's Attack of the Giant Leeches, directed by Bernard L. Kowalski.
Take care of a woman like you, Liz.
Then, out of the swamp's depths, again appears horrifying, mysterious creatures, thirsting for lovers' blood. What are these giant mutations whose attack on people sends the whole countryside on an endless search?
Whatever killed those people is still in that lake, and it's going to take more than dynamite to get it out.
And then brings them back to life to gratify their distorted desires.
When the first atomic bomb was tested, several of the scientists who had developed it had bets placed on whether or not it would ignite the oxygen in the atmosphere and destroy the entire world in one cataclysmic chain reaction. Luckily, that didn't happen. However, after the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of World War II, the documentation concerning the horrors of radiation poisoning scared people even worse than nuclear annihilation. This was a truly terrifying idea. That something you couldn't see, hear, feel, or taste could kill you in the most horrendous ways you could imagine. Even worse was the idea that it wouldn't kill you. It would cause you to mutate in some awful way, giving you 3 eyes or 2 heads or rot the skin off your body. Exploitation of fear is the basis of all horror movies. The maniac in the dark with a butcher knife, the monster in the closet, the hand that clutches your ankles from under the bed. These fears could carry horror movies only so far, however. Even though those universal steers are still exploited to this day, capitalizing on a topical fear makes a horror movie more immediate for the audience. In the 1950s, mutation from radioactivity was very much on the minds of filmmakers because it was a new fear to exploit. There were 2 ways to exploit this fear. In some atomic holocaust movies, such as The Day the World Ended, mutation took the form of a human turning into a monster. The other tack, although there was absolutely no scientific evidence to back this up, was something of normal size growing to monstrous proportions. In 1957, director Bert I. Gordon, who was known by the acronym Mr. Big because of his predilection for making films about giant creatures, made The Amazing Colossal Man, a movie about an army sergeant named Glenn Manning who, after being caught in the blast of a plutonium bomb, begins growing to gigantic proportions. Of course, this makes him lose his mind, and he soon goes on a rampage in Las Vegas, uprooting trees and causing general havoc. The Army comes up with a solution, however, a drug to reverse the growth process. They also come up with a rather novel way of delivering it, using a giant hypodermic needle. This is about as ridiculous as the rest of the movie, but my favorite part is when Manning gets shot off the Hoover Dam. As you can see, Mr. Big didn't bother with little details like mats so the image of Manning wouldn't be transparent. Another big creature movie was Them. This movie was about giant ants in the Los Angeles sewer system. Them was actually a pretty good movie, and it holds up well to this day. It was originally slated to be a fairly large budget color movie shot in 3D, but at the last minute, the studio got antsy and lowered the budget, forcing director Gordon Douglas, who, by the way, was an alumnus director of the Our Gang shorts, to shoot in black and white in 2D. Some of the shots intended to take advantage of the 3D process are still in evidence in the finished film, though, like close-ups of the ants and shots of the flamethrowers, shooting directly into the camera. Attack of the Giant Leeches was in no way, shape, or form a high-budget movie at any point in its development. It was produced by Gene Corman, brother of Roger Corman, and he learned his lessons well. The swamp scenes were shot at the Los Angeles County Arboretum and Botanical Garden, where the Mr. Rourke tattoo scenes for Fantasy Island were also photographed. The underwater cave scenes were shot at Chaplin Studios in Hollywood, and there was a near-fatal accident during shooting. In an interview for the Astounding Bee Monster website, Yvette Vickers remembered, "The cave was built on set and the water was in a vinyl tub 5 or 6 feet deep. As we were shooting a scene, I looked up to see the cameraman on his seat twirling and the camera spinning in circles and then a rush of water. The tub that was holding the water had broken. I saw these big waves that looked like the ocean. The cameraman was swept away. Thankfully, an alert gaffer cut the power to the lights or everyone on set would have been electrocuted." Bruno William Visotto was born on March 25, 1922 in Chicago, Illinois. A talented actor, writer, and director, he had his first taste of acting while in parochial school, appearing in a stage production of Christopher's Orphans, playing the bad guy. At the age of 19, he went up to the Hobart Theater in Chicago, where he learned the basics of acting, makeup, and direction. He appeared in hundreds of stage productions and television shows, directing more than 2,000 live programs and acting in 200 more in addition to appearing on stage. He moved to Hollywood in 1952 and began appearing in films in 1953. His first film was 1953's The System, and after that he appeared in the same year as The Wild One in an uncredited role. He appeared in 82 movies and television series, but was unfortunately seen by Hollywood as kind of a low-rent Orson Welles, appearing mostly in low-budget films. But he always seemed, to me at least, to lend a touch of class to whatever he's in, with the possible exception of The Wasp Woman. I recently saw a movie he directed, Invasion of the Star Creatures. I'd seen it once before sometime back in the late 70s on 8 All Night, and I remembered it being hilarious. I don't know what I was on that night, but it must have been good because the movie was awful, and the chances of seeing it on this show are really good. I should mention that he directed one of the strangest movies I've ever seen, 1955's Dementia, aka Daughter of Horror. I remember seeing this and thinking it was incomprehensible, but I looked it up on the IMDb, and of course, there are tons of people who believe it's a masterpiece. Apparently, the version I saw was a recut re-release of the film, with added narration by Ed McMahon, with 2 minutes of footage cut from it. Apparently, those 2 minutes make all the difference to people who enjoy art films. I do not count myself among that number. Bruno Visotto died of a heart attack on September 24, 1976 in Culver City, California. Ken Clark was born on June 4, 1927 in Neff, Ohio. He appeared in 28 films and 14 television shows during his career, his first film being 1956's On the Threshold of Space. His last appearance was in Robin Cook's Invasion in 1997. He doesn't make much of an impression in Attack of the Giant Leeches, although it's interesting that his character is concerned for the ecosystem of the swamp in the 1959 movie. Yvette Vickers was born Yvette Vetterer on August 26, 1936 in Kansas City, Missouri. She majored in picture and theater arts at UCLA, and in the 50s was cast as the White Rain Girl in commercials for White Rain hairspray. She was a Playboy Playmate of the Month in July 1959. Her measurements were 35, 22, 35, and although she was only 5'2", she packed quite a bit onto that frame, as you'll see in this movie. She appeared in 16 movies and 13 television shows, including several appearances on Dragnet. Her first film was 1950's Sunset Boulevard. She also appeared in HUD with Paul Newman and released a jazz CD in the 90s entitled Tribute to Charlie and Maria, which showcased the songs her parents recorded in the 50s and 60s. A lot of people from the South have problems with movies set there. I became aware of this while discussing the movie Mississippi Burning with a friend of my brother Chris. When I jokingly mentioned that the movie made you want to track down a Mississippian and take a horsewhip to them, my brother's friend, Quint, took umbrage at the statement and made me realize how generalized not only that film, but most of the films about the South can be. There are a few hilarious reviews of this film on the web written by Southerners, one being at www.horror-wood.com, written by Crystal Guillory. It's called Giant Leeches and Grits. There's plenty of an Attack of the Giant Leeches to offend Southerners. It opens with two moonshine-guzzling alligator poachers running afoul of the leeches, and then picks up at the local grocery store where all the good old boys are tipped up by the pot-bellied stove, chewing tobacco and ogling Liz, the Lolita-like wife of the owner, Big Daddy Dave Walker. It's as if Ed Wood had adapted a horror play written by Tennessee Williams during a bad case of the DTs. Yankees should find it hysterical, though. So right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy Attack of the Giant Leeches, right here on Cleveland Classic Cinema.